Hey everyone, welcome back to POP Incursions. I'm Nico. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Smash Trivia John. In our very first collaboration here on the channel, we are going to discuss the recent remarks of Bob Iger, the CEO at Disney. As he said last week, he has quietly cancelled some projects that he didn't think were overly strong, and we are going to theorize what projects might stay in the MCU and what might go. Stay tuned.
Oh darling, I'm no ordinary woman. I'm the goddess of death.
Now I speak for myself. Trespassing in this city and on this planet.
Case closed.
Okay. The 9 realms will know freedom. And the cosmos.
They're not busy gaslighting you, they're threatening you with murder. That's what all the podcasts are about.
Avengers!
I'm sorry, my king, but we're out of time. I'm ready to give my closing argument.
It's Shanti.
Higher princess.
That's the sound of lightning.
Exhausted my patience.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to POP Incursions. I'm Nico, and today we have a special guest, and the first ever guest on the channel. We have John from Smash Trivia John and the Gamma Analysis podcast.
Hey, I'm really glad to be here. It's a lot of fun on whenever I get to guest on other people's shows, and especially actually since I don't get to do much stuff on YouTube very often. So it's really cool to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And myself and John did record an episode for the podcast, which when it's out, I will definitely post it everywhere. So keep an eye out, and also go check out the podcast, because if you like my content, then you'll definitely like John's content. So today we are going to be discussing some news for the MCU. And on Tuesday, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, and obviously Marvel is under Disney, basically came out and said that they have quietly cancelled and gotten rid of a few projects that they didn't think would be that strong. And for a bit more background, since Bob Iger returned to Disney, he has been very vocal about making change, trying to improve Marvel, which is obviously good things. For me anyway, I feel like sometimes his personal views are mixed into those changes, and it's not as objective as it should be. Recently, he has also said that they will only be focusing on their strongest franchises, and they want to focus more on the creativity and storytelling rather than messaging, because he felt that recently with the MCU, a lot of it is trying to get a certain message out there, which is ironic because now we're having his own messaging come through in a different way. He didn't specifically mention any projects, but there is a lot of, rumors, speculation, discussion online, and we have certain scoopsters as well coming out to let us know basically whether certain projects have been cancelled in relation to Marvel. Now, to make it more objective, he didn't just talk about Marvel, he talked about all of Disney, so it would have included, Pixar, Star Wars probably as well. But obviously today we're going to talk about the MCU. John, first thoughts when you heard about this?
Annoying, because I hate the quality over quantity arguments people give, because I think that they have this problem where they inflate their own taste with what is actually a good quality, and they think that if something is not made specifically for them, it's just bad quality. And I think that sadly, Bob Iger has listened to those complaints, and I sadly expect that a lot of the things that are not for the biggest group of fans, primarily the people who like action and white male heroes, I think those are sadly the ones that he's most likely canceling, and I don't think that's a good thing at all.
I definitely agree. I know I don't think it's a good thing either. And I totally relate in feeling that the quality over quantity argument Kind of actually like how Bob Iger kind of threw out the, less messaging, but now he's using his own messaging to make decisions. It's kind of the same thing. They're using their own views underneath the false kind of issue of quality over quantity. And obviously, yes, Marvel has produced a lot of content since Disney Plus was launched, but that's kind of the point of Disney Plus. It only makes sense that if you have a new streaming platform that you're signing your, company and franchise onto, well, of course, you're going to make more content for that, because for me, that's the point of content, is to, enjoy it and consume it. But I do get that some people are probably like, oh God, I have to watch all of this to understand that.
How I always saw it is like, you'll whether you watch it or not, you'll understand what's going on. But if you watch everything, you get a better appreciation of the events, and so that's the only reason for watching everything. I think that this idea of too much content, they wouldn't have people wouldn't have that problem if they just didn't watch everything. You don't need to watch everything, and just watch the stuff that is made for you and your taste. There within Marvel Comics, there's probably thousands of comics that come out every year. They don't expect you to read every single one of them. They only expect you to read the ones that you're interested in. And I think that's something that a lot of fans of the MCU don't understand. They don't have to watch everything.
That's a great way of putting it, actually, by saying, comparing it to comics, they don't expect you to read every single comic, so they don't expect you to watch every project. I understand why people may think at first that they need to watch everything to understand the continuity, but if we're also being honest, recently with the Disney Plus shows, they're not overly connected to the rest of the MCU, so it's not that important either if you don't want to watch it. Obviously, when Echo came out and they launched their Marvel Spotlight, that was kind of confirmed that, yeah, not everything is going to be that connected where you have to watch every episode of everything to understand what's going on. I also find some of it a little bit contradictory, because with the Marvel Spotlight and the fact that you don't have to watch everything to understand all the other projects, that is also a little bit 50-50 kind of argument. Because I know for me anyway, and I know other people do share the same sentiment, that we want more connectivity with these new characters especially, but then we also have Marvel Spotlight. So it's a little bit kind of...
For me, actually, I want more content. I don't want less content. I want more content, because how I think that it should be done is that, just like with regular TV, when you add more shows, you don't just stop putting out the other show the next year. You just have more shows. I think that every show, or at least most of the shows, should just have another season coming out every year, and then as they want to add more characters, they can add more shows as well. And I've had a problem where I feel like I almost like there's a drought of content whenever we have long breaks between in Marvel shows. I remember like literally just a month or two after the She-Hulk show ended, I was already being like, I want more. Or why? And it was crazy that it went from October, when She-Hulk ended, to it was like June or July of last year when Secret Invasion started, and that was the next TV show. Like that was a long time in my to me, and I think it's more of these online fans that think that we should have less content. And I think for a regular person, you're gonna want more content, because of the fact that You want something to justify the fact that you are spending this money on the streaming service. If you compare the amount of new content that Disney Plus puts out versus most other streaming services, it's a very small amount of content compared to others, and that's not a good way to run your streaming service.
Absolutely. And that's a good point in terms of the subscription. And of course, that's the goal of Marvel now having the Disney Plus side of things, is to get the subscriptions up. But that's a great point. And I definitely feel you in terms of a drought. I know for some of the unhappy people online, it's probably different, but for me 2022 was a great year for Marvel, and being able to have like Moon Knight, Miss Marvel and She-Hulk in the same year as Multiverse of Madness, Thor and Wakanda Forever, it was amazing for me anyway. And I definitely think that they've kind of done a 180 now, where it's gone from loads to feeling like nothing. And apparently as well, actually, according to some scoopsters, they are going to be reducing significantly the number of live action Disney Plus projects for Marvel and focusing on animation. It's a little bit worrying in my eyes.
It's a weird thing. Like, it's cool that they're actually putting some respect on animation's name, and because a lot of studios refuse to do that. But on the other hand, I don't think mainly having animated stuff is a sustainable way to keep these things going. I think we absolutely should have the live action shows, because there are sadly a lot less people who are excited for the animated stuff.
Definitely. For me, especially with What If, I absolutely loved What If Season 2 in particular. I thought it was great. And I'm looking forward to, X-Men, especially Eyes of Wakanda as well. But you're right in the sense where it's not going to attract as many people as the live action things. Because when you think about when Disney Plus first started with Marvel, it's WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye. I mean, they're really big characters coming from the big screen. And then we had the wave of new characters. And then and that alone, is a big accomplishment to be able to produce that amount of content. And obviously in the beginning, it did get them a lot of subscribers. But to then say, well, actually, no, we're going to not do away, but nearly do away with the live action and just focus on animation, is a pretty big risk in my eyes.
I've actually looked at like the subscriber rates on Disney Plus. I noticed particularly that whenever there's the long breaks, that's when they start losing subscribers. People don't it's mainly online fans who want less content. Normal people, they get annoyed when they don't have stuff to watch. They're like, why am I spending the time? I'm in money on this streaming service.
Absolutely. When some people online want less content, what they really mean is less of a specific type of content. And it's not a generalized, and they want less of the things that they dislike, which I think we all know what that consists of. And for a lot of people, I would imagine that the live action is mainly what they want and what they would consume, and the animation is a bonus, or they'll stumble across it accidentally, but they're not looking for it, whereas with the live action they are. So let's have a look at some of the projects that could have been cancelled, maybe should have been cancelled, or which ones that we don't want to be cancelled. Vision Quest, Armor Wars, Wonder Man. The next one is too painful to say. The Okoye series, Ironheart, which is why I'm wearing this, She-Hulk Season 2, and then some other ones that are probably in the works, or there are rumours, is Moon Knight Season 2, Miss Marvel Season 2, Hawkeye Season 2. So the first one on the list, which unfortunately, sad to say that it is most likely being cancelled, is Vision Quest. Now, Vision Quest was apparently supposed to set up the Young Avengers project, which we saw at the end of the Marvels, Miss Marvel Kamala Khan begin to set up that team. Apparently, the Young Avengers was a series and now is being developed into a film, production likely starting at the end of next year, or the start of 2026. John, what do you think of the news? Well, not official, but the likely news of Vision Quest.
I think it probably is canceled, but I don't want it to be canceled. I think it's dumb to cancel something like this because this has been a question that has been on most MCU fans' minds since WandaVision. Where is Vision? So I think it's not smart at all to cancel this, but I expect it probably is. Though there is a chance that it's not. Since, remember, as we said before, or the most popular part of the Marvel fans is the people who want white male heroes. What is Paul Bettany?
And now Vision is white as well.
So I think there's a chance it may not be, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Yeah, it is a bummer, and especially because, you know, Vision has been around since Ultron. Paul Bettany recently did say that he will return to the MCU, and no doubt he will be in it. Most people are guessing in Armor Wars, if that's not cancelled. Where the hell is Vision in the MCU? Very frustrating. There's not a lot of white synthezoids flying around the place, and if people recognise him, they'll know it's Vision from the Avengers. So unless we get, you know, in Agatha something on the news saying Vision spotted somewhere, you would think they would capitalize on the remaining Avengers they have left of the pre-Endgame Avengers, considering that a lot of people can't seem to move on and accept the new characters. You think they would actually utilize him, of all people, but time will tell. The next one is Armor Wars. Now, personally, I don't think this is going to be cancelled because, number one, they moved the Ironheart series from 2022 to 2025 to coincide with Armor Wars because anyone who basically has anything like Iron Man armor will be in that film, hence Vision, Rhodey. So I don't think Armor Wars will be cancelled, and I really don't want it to be. And I know for some people it's like, oh, you know, what the hell is this? I actually found it quite intriguing, the concept. And as well, it's not like it's just something, you know, cooked up to make money. The storyline comes from the comics as well, and it makes sense because there is all that Stark tech out there we've seen in Spider-Man, Miss Marvel, the Department of Damage Control. So I'm hoping that Armor Wars is still viable. What about you, John?
I would like it to be so viable as well. I would like, if it does come, them to say that it wasn't nearly as long as people think that Rhodey was a Skrull, because I absolutely hate the idea of him having been a Skrull since in Civil War.
Oh, definitely.
I would love for them to keep going with this project. I don't know whether they will or not. It's one where I feel like it's 50-50 whether they will or not. They've been pushing off this project for a while, so I would not be terribly surprised if it got canceled. But I don't know.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one, you know, because it doesn't directly follow just one storyline. It's kind of being sprinkled through these different projects that, a bit of armor, a bit of Stark tech, what's going on here. But again, time will tell. The next one was never officially announced, which worries me. Although the lead actor did actually speak of it and was allowed to speak of it. So I'm hoping that's like the lock that makes sure it happens because they've now said it, is an Okoye / Midnight Angels series. series. I'm a huge fan of Black Panther, and Wakanda Forever is potentially my favorite MCU film. And Okoye in particular is probably my favorite character, neck and neck with Queen Ramonda. And the fact that, of course, we saw spoiler warning by the way for Wakanda Forever, of course, we saw poor Okoye be fired, and that's what led her and Aneka to become the Midnight Angels from the comics. And we have a Midnight Angel behind me, actually. And according to one of the scoopsters, Holyfield's news on Twitter, Shuri would make an appearance in this series, and that would also lead into the third Black Panther. I would really hope that they would not scrap this. And to quote Bob Iger himself, he said they will be focusing on their strongest franchises. And Black Panther is an extremely strong franchise, especially post Endgame, where of course Black Panther Wakanda Forever made over $800 million and was the first all-female led film to reach that point. So it's a huge accomplishment. Needless to say that should meet the requirements for Bob Iger's strongest franchises. So I'm hoping they wouldn't get rid of this series. And as well, if they did, it would really undo or kind of negate that storyline in Wakanda Forever. So I'm hoping, again, that's the catch that makes them have to do it, if you know what I mean.
I think this is one where I would love it to actually to continue and actually happen, but I think there's a pretty big chance of it getting canceled. Sadly, because it is a black female lead, and that doesn't fall in line with this supposed no messages idea. Because really, when you say that there's been messages in these and MCU stuff recently, there's not actually really been messages. It's more of or there's been characters who are not white male heroes, and they consider that a message, and even though it's not really, I think sadly this is one where it's probably be canceled. You say that there is the popularity of the Black Panther franchise, but it does take a lot away from the popularity if it does not have the name Black Panther, sadly. And so I think that's more likely than not this will probably be canceled, sadly.
It is ironic though, because it's like they say no messages, but what that really means is no representation or diversity. Oh yeah. And a message equals a non-white man leading the film or the project.
Mm-hmm. And what's is absolutely insane about this is ever since Disney started 80 or 100 years ago or whatever, there's been messages in films. Sure, the messages have changed over the years, but there's absolutely been messages in films. Some of the early Mickey Mouse cartoons were propaganda for world wars.
When I first heard the news about only the strongest franchises, less messaging, less this and less that, I was like, what's the point? It's like you're going to be making 3 films and maybe 1 project for Disney Plus a year, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's not too bad, but why are we paying then all of this for the whole how many years since Disney Plus has started if it's just for once a year? And they're not doing the homework of when they introduce a new character, they then have to let us grow and learn with the character. And what's happening is they've introduced all these new characters, and then they've said, we're not going to revisit, we're not going to do any sequels or season 2s, we'll just keep going with new characters. And it's like, is it important? Are we ever going to see them again? No one knows. And it's very, very frustrating.
And the sad thing with that is that's not just a Marvel thing. And that is an all of TV these days thing, as so many TV shows have this problem. We get so few episodes, and then you have to wait like 3 years between seasons. It's a really weird thing that they've decided to do with that, and it's not a good way to do storytelling. You will forget or not care about these characters by the time they come back. It's not, I don't think this is just a Marvel thing, because as you can look at so many different other TV shows from other streaming services, that even ones that are not superhero content, and you'll notice that a lot of them these days there's like 3 years between seasons.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and that's one thing that definitely frustrates me is, and I think personally, with especially the new characters, like when they did Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, they should have been ready to have a season 2 out within 2 years of the last episode. And it's very frustrating because it's like, and look, I get with Miss Marvel, she was in the Marvels, but that's also contributing to the people who say, you know, there's too much homework. Is it even is it significant? Do I have to watch it or not? We don't know. And as well, and one thing that I wouldn't have a problem with, but it is actually something that you have to prepare yourself now for disappointment, is when you get invested in these characters and then it's like, okay, yeah, we'll see it in 5 years in a cameo, and it's like, oh, okay, what happened to that?
Yeah, it's a big problem. These people will want less content, but then they will also then they also do complain about the fact that that it takes a while for us to see these characters, and you can't have both. You can't be complaining that you don't see the characters enough, but then also be like, oh, they should put out less content. That doesn't work. Unless and this is really this is all, when you get down to the root of it, what they want. They only want the characters that they are interested in, and they think that those are the only characters that should be focused on. And that's a really closed-minded way to look at things.
Definitely. And it kind of goes back to when you're a child, and it's like you have to share with other people, and you have to, you know, tolerate other people's likes and dislikes, and these people aren't able to do that because it's, oh no, I can't share my Marvel with anyone else. They're not allowed to have that character because I don't like it. And if I don't like it, then it shouldn't exist in the first place. And it's like, oh my God, that's very narcissistic approach.
Yeah, like, can you imagine say something like Cartoon Network, or I don't know if you guys had Cartoon Network in Ireland, but like, imagine growing up and you were like, they should only put out the shows that I like. That's not a sustainable way to have have a television channel. They have to have stuff. They had to back then. They had to have stuff going on 24/7, and they had to have stuff for different kinds of audiences, because if they didn't, people would get tired of just having the same thing, and and you don't want people to get tired of just having the same thing.
Exactly, because everyone has different likes and dislikes. So if you want to get the most amount of audience, you know, you need to try and have a very broad plate of shows and projects. It's frustrating because it's very contradictory of what people want, don't want, and it can obviously be confusing for then people at Marvel to try and gauge reception, but I think they need to be careful of where they're getting this feedback. If it's just on social media, that could be anyone and anything, and if they really want quality feedback, then actually, you know, do a survey or set up some sort of evaluation process that actually makes sure to get a broad audience and not just one specific demographic.
It really is this thing of this just people being loud and wanting something to complain about. If you don't have that thing to for them to complain about, they'll just find something else to complain about.
It can be very pessimistic when you're surrounded by that as well. So Marvel and Disney need to be able to tell, you know, the forests from the trees, because otherwise you'll just get lost in it, because of the loudness of the minority. Another show that unfortunately is likely cancelled, considering what Bob Iger has said and then what the lead actress has said, She-Hulk. She-Hulk is my favorite Disney Plus series. For me, after WandaVision, it felt like the only actual show and not like a 6-part film. It was, you know, made and constructed to be a show, and because of the unique situation of obviously a lawyer and the superhuman abilities being Hulk, that is what allows for very unique scenarios, and it also allows for a lot of connectivity with the wider MCU, because people need lawyers, but then if they don't need lawyers, they might obviously need then a superhero, and that's how we were able to see characters like Wong, Madison, Abomination in She-Hulk. And in my eyes, She-Hulk could be a pillar for the MCU, where it's a long-term show, it has more episodes than the first season, and it's able to connect to the wider MCU, but it gives, and I suppose this is the point of Disney Plus, it gives us a look into what is the MCU Earth like on a normal day-to-day basis. And that's kind of the point of Disney Plus, is to give us that better insight into Earth 616. Or the multiverse for What If and Loki. I know I've said that the new character shows should have already been ready for another season. Because they're new characters, they should have all been given the opportunity to at least get a second season to learn from mistakes, improve, and then ask people, well, what did you think? Obviously ask them after the first season, but keep in mind it was the first time, it's new for people, and it's a new character, so everyone has to find their footing. And if a show like Moon Knight or Miss Marvel or Hawkeye gets a season 2, then I believe the other shows also deserve that same opportunity, and not just 1 or 2.
Yeah, I absolutely want to see She-Hulk season 2. It's I agree, it is my favorite favorite of the Disney Plus shows. Honestly, it's my favorite thing that Marvel has ever put out. I love that show so much. Sadly, yeah, I do think it is probably going to be canceled. And it's absolutely dumb them doing that. People like to say it's not popular, but if you look at the amount of subscribers that Disney got while it was airing, it was definitely popular. And it's just a loud minority that like to say that it's bad and that it's not popular. It's, that people are like, oh, it's too expensive of a show to make. Okay, why do you care how much money they spend on a show? It's a corporation. I don't care how much money they spend on these things, but. And also, like, if they were to give She-Hulk a season 2, it's gonna be cheaper because they already now have that CG model.
Yes, actually, that's a good point. Because, and if anyone hasn't watched the Assembled for She-Hulk, I highly recommend it. And you'll see the amount of work that was put into it. And as well, about the budget is also a very good point, because no one is going around saying, well, how much did WandaVision, cost to make? Was it worth it? And the same with Loki. So, it's picking and choosing. And again, it's like the whole messages thing. There's an underlying, truth masqueraded under budget or CGI.
Oh yeah, definitely. I sadly think that is probably one that we won't get to see again, and I don't even know if we'll get to see her in other projects, because sadly Disney wants to listen to that loud minority.
Yeah, unfortunately. And if we're not getting any She-Hulk specific projects, I will be on them to have her in Avengers and more, hopefully. And from what I can make out, there is a decent chance of her being in Avengers 5 and being a member of the Earth 616 Avengers. I really hope that they'll reconsider, or that someone else will get the position of CEO and they'll be able to make a season 2. And even myself, the amount of negativity, I had a distorted perception of how much people did or did not like it, because now if you go online and you have people asking, what did you think of it? A lot is actually very positive. So it really is just the loud minority hating.
Oh yeah.
And like we said earlier, you don't have to watch it if you don't like it. No one is forcing you to. And it's not everything that happens in every single episode is connected to the wider MCU. So, and I think as well, it probably irked people that characters like Abomination and Wong were able to be in it. And they were excited about that, but they were probably thinking, I want them in whatever show I'm watching, not in,
Definitely, definitely. And I think, sadly, you mentioned how that like it's an interesting concept, a lawyer and a superhero, and that allows for these cameos. Sadly, I think that Disney and Marvel will be like, well, we have that with Daredevil. Also, they'll just use him since he is the white male hero.
Yep, and it's unfortunate that there is a massive proxy to She-Hulk, which is Daredevil. I'm hoping we might actually get to see her in Daredevil Born Again. It's not looking very hopeful. I think I actually think there's more of a chance of her being in Deadpool and Wolverine than there is in Daredevil.
Oh, yeah.
But I do hope that Avengers 5, and I also feel like Captain America Brave New World, there's a fair chance that she's going to be in it, especially now that they've made so many changes. They've taken a lot of people and the whole Serpent Society and Sabra out of the film. So they're actually searching for villains to replace the Serpent Society, which is a different conversation. But there's a lot of opportunity for Sam to start building that Avengers team by the end of it. So I'm really hoping that they'll say, right, if we're not giving her another show, the least we can do is make her a good team member of the Avengers, so her fans at least have that.
But I hope that they do that. Sadly I don't trust them to, because of how they're currently basing decisions on. To be honest, I think we need to stop with the old white dudes in power. This is I feel like that's the biggest problem that's causing a lot of these decisions. You look at most of the different companies, and they're all old white dudes in power, are just like with governments. But I don't.
No, and actually, I did see. Apparently, according to Daniel RPK, I think it was, that Kevin Feige is setting up like a creative team to help the future of the MCU. And there are two people that we know are rumored to be on it. And those two people are Ryan Reynolds and Iman Vellani. So we have two people that are fans and comic fans, and particularly because She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall, that will hopefully encourage Ryan Reynolds to at least set up something where they can interact. And with Iman Vellani, hopefully she can be our civil rights activists within the Disney Corporation and make sure we get some of these characters back.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. And honestly, I think Ryan Reynolds is the kind of person who he would definitely push for being able to have She-Hulk continue and appear in Deadpool 3. Or even if he doesn't have her in Deadpool 3, I feel like he would put a joke in there about She-Hulk and in a positive light, just because of the kind of person he is and how he definitely seems like he's the kind of person who cares about representation and cares about being progressive.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping that we'll at least get a mention, because it is pretty significant that there's only one other character who can break the fourth wall in the MCU.
Yeah. And also the choice to have in Deadpool 3 the one of the main TVA people that appear here in the trailer is someone who is a deep cut character out of She-Hulk comics.
Yes, and now this probably won't happen, but wouldn't it be wild if they went into a universe, or they went into like one of the courtrooms in the TVA and we saw a variant of She-Hulk and Hawkeye? That would be epic.
That would be cool. Yeah, definitely.
I'll campaign for She-Hulk at a season 2. I'll sell a kidney please, if anyone from Marvel is watching, please just convince someone to do something about it. And there are some other shows that were rumored but isn't entirely, you know, if we know it, they were even a concept. Things like Hawkeye season 2, where it focuses on Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel season 2, which I would very much so advocate for, because, and I know people aren't going to like what I'm about to say, Miss Marvel is arguably the newest kind of generational proxy to Spider-Man, in the sense of being in school with these superpowers, having those experiences while still in school. They're both, well, obviously back in Homecoming era, they would have both been, you know, quite naive, very new to all of this. And I think, similar to She-Hulk, it can be a sustainable show where we actually get to see, like Peter Parker, what it's like for someone to be in school while all of this is going on.
And you know, Miss Marvel is one of the highest rated projects that the MCU has ever put out. I'm pretty sure, like, on at least of the Disney Plus shows, it is the highest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes. It's such an interesting thing, I think, to be just because I love the show, but also I think I find it interesting because the directors of that are the same people who were doing the Batgirl film. How do you how do they think that I think that after people loved Miss Marvel, that it was a smart idea to cancel Siel that had those same directors?
It is because of the type of show and the demographic, and one thing that unfortunately can't be amplified as much as the other allowed minorities is actually kids. You know, they're not online saying, oh my god, we love it or we hate it. And obviously that's a demographic as well that would be quite significant, especially for things like Miss Marvel. So Disney and Marvel need to look into as well. If we want to truly start taking feedback, then have a look at all the demographics, work it out some way.
I think Miss Marvel is an interesting one. I think it could go both ways. Both. There's a lot of people who want on Miss Marvel to return, because as we all love Bob Iger's massive disdain for the Marvels, I think could push him towards not having it come back.
Unfortunately. John, thank you very much for coming on the channel. It was a great conversation, and we definitely would be happy to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure that you go and check out Smash Trivia John and the Gamma Analysis podcast, and I'll be posting our episode when it comes out. So that is it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or you can find links to our socials in the description. Are you in agreement with some of these cancellations, or are you against them? Or, like me, would you sell your left kidney just to get that project? Let us know in the comments. We would really, really love to hear your thoughts, and I enjoy being able to have these discussions with fellow fans. Make sure you go and check out Smash Trivia John's social media and the Gamma Analysis podcast. Links will be in the description. I would really appreciate it if you could give the video a thumbs up, and make sure that you click that subscribe button for more Marvel and Marvel Funko Pop videos. I'm Nico at POP Incursions. See you next time.